From the Hill. Elon Musk says he sold 10,000 of burnt hair perfume. 10,000 of what, bottles? 10,000 bottles? There you go. Elon has sold 10,000 bottles of burnt hair perfume through his business, The Boring Company, earning more than $1 million in sales from the product. You're in the wrong line of work. That's just it. The billionaire announced the news in a series of tweets he called his burnt hair perfume. Doesn't get more lit than this. The world.
That's amazing.
Burnt hair. Boring Company.
Love how it says singed on the bottom there in subtext.
He already made $1 million.
He made $1 million. It's $100.
Yep.
Let the flames begin. Why? I don't. You know what, man? I got mad respect for it. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Congratulations, Elon Musk, on your burnt hair perfume. Singed.
It's amazing. Man can sell anything.
He changed his Twitter bio to a perfume salesman, I believe.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
Yep.
Well.
Dude gets it.
Yeah. I wonder why it is, and I talk about this, why people who are wealthy don't do more weird stuff. What do they do with their money? I was talking earlier about some big famous musicians and how they make millions of dollars playing shows, and I'm like, but you never hear anything from them. It's like they play the show, and then they disappear. Mm-hmm. Where does all that money go? Does it just sit somewhere? Are these people sitting there thinking like, well, I'm going to be 70, and then when I die, I'll have one with the most points. Is that how it works? I'm like, do something. I just genuinely don't get it. I just think about, we were talking about Trevor Noah leaving The Daily Show, and I think his salary is reported as like $16 million, but you never see anything from him.
Right.
What is he doing with all that money? $16 million bucks a year? So he's on the show for what, a decade? His net worth is $160 million at minimum if he didn't invest it. So let's say, or if he spent some, maybe it goes down to 150 if he spent $1 million bucks a year. That's an insane amount of money. Yeah. You can buy like an army of giraffes and have them march through New York. You could do like, why, I don't get it.
I interviewed quite a famous British singer recently who had like mad money, was living in Los Angeles, and he was saying about he ended up getting a house that was like a castle, and there were just so many people working for him that he would like go downstairs in the morning and there were like 30 cars outside, and he'd be like, none of these cars are mine. You know, I don't even know. In the kitchen there'd be like 20 people. They're like staff, and he was like, this is not my family. And he got to a point where he was like, you know what, I've got to sell this. I got to change this life. I'm always wondering as well, what do these rich people, I guess they must do a lot of stuff in secret, but where do they go when they go on like a holiday, right? There are loads of, I don't know if it's the same in the States, but in Europe, if you take like EasyJet or Ryanair, right, you just go like a 2-hour flight to France. There aren't like more expensive versions. There's just those ones, and they're never on them. I guess they're getting private jets.
Well, so look, let's say you're making 16 million bucks a year. So what does that come out to? Like 1.2 million per month. A private jet, if you're flying, right now it's really expensive because of COVID and stuff, but it didn't used to be. But now with COVID and everything, I think the cost of a round trip from the DC area to Florida, as an example, I think the cost of that's probably between $10,000 and $20,000. If you're making 1.2 million per month doing a show, you're flying private, but that's not putting a dent in your money. No. You probably don't even think twice about it. No, but not only that, they don't do that. They do this thing called net jets, where you buy a percentage of a fleet, and then it's like a
timeshare.
A jet share, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then when you need to fly, you just call and say, this airport, this place, this time, round trip, and then you pay for the fuel, basically. But you own part of the plane, so you can always resell it. So it's not even that expensive. It's probably like 2 times as much as flying commercial when you have the money to invest. So my thing is just like, Elon Musk, we know what he's doing. He's making burnt hair perfume. Hey, more power to him.
Hilarious.
He's making flamethrowers and digging holes. That's great. Everybody knows that deep down men just desire to dig holes. And there you go. Elon, he's living the dream, man. He's the peak of all male, every male goal.
It's funny that he made a perfume with his drilling company. I don't know. Boring Company is a company that makes underground drills to drill tunnels, and that's the one selling the perfume.
He also just wrote a couple hours ago, please buy my perfume so I could buy Twitter. So that could be one reason why he just is like thinking of random products. But on a conspiratorial mindset, it could be the activation to the Neuralink, which could be already inside of us because of the nanobots that were injected into individuals.
Don't smell it.
So anything's possible here that is going to be activated with the Starlink satellites that, of course, will make you into a bot.
LiDAR.
That
Will serve the elites.
Kingsman, the film. That's what that
Yeah.
was.
Right, exactly.
They had the thing in their neck or whatever.
Something
Don't
like that.
smell it.
It's in the
smell the
jet
burnt
stream. You can't. It's going to
Yeah.
find its way to farmers in the Midwest.
Just Elon Musk being like, once I release all of the burnt hair perfume into the jet stream, it'll blanket the planet and everyone will be under my Neuralink control.
It's a secret bio.
But he didn't call it his Musk. He hasn't used
Yes.
the term.
That would have been a great opportunity.
Elon's Musk.
That's
Yeah.
got to come next. Elon.
Elon, if you're listening, Elon's Musk.
Everybody
Round two.
wants it. I mean, this is they are clamoring for Elon's Musk. They would buy your urine, man. Sell them something delicious.
Dude, come on.
They really would.
No, but I want to ask you guys seriously, like, someone knows what the rich people are doing with their money, or are they just I really don't get it.
Well, I think a lot of people put it in mutual funds and let BlackRock take over. Companies
Yeah.
like BlackRock.
Is that it?
True.
A lot of it.
It's like, oh, I make $16 million a year, so I'll just put all of my money into a big machine and forget about
You'll
it.
find like a run-of-the-mill money manager who's like very, stodgy and like does the norm, which is put this percent into mutual funds, put this percent in a stock portfolio, these stock portfolios. Then the really rich people put it in offshore bank accounts that we don't hear about, like in the Cayman Islands.
But for what reason? I just don't get it. For what
This is
reason?
to give to their kids.
This is exactly what this person I interviewed said recently. He said, he came from poverty himself, and it's another status game, isn't it? It's another, how much you have. And he said, no matter how much I've earned, I always want more. I always want another million, another. You're always looking at it. So, and he said for future generations and generations thereafter, like constantly. more.
But it's true. But don't these people do things? I don't know. Maybe
in
I'm just a
secret.
weirdo.
In secret.
But like, I don't think they do anything. I think people really need to understand if you're someone like if Trevor Noah's salary really is that much, he can have anything he wants. If he's not buying yachts and helicopters and all that stuff, and he can buy those things. But like, want to go to a restaurant? He can have the entire menu 10 times over from one day's work. He can buy the restaurant with 1 month's work,
Right.
or after a couple months, he owns a restaurant in Times Square. Millions. In Times Square, they're probably like $50 million somewhere. But, oh no, a couple of years of work and you can own all of these buildings all over the place.
Well, it's like a psychological rat race. It's like, I need more. The other guy has something bigger. Jeff Bezos has something more, and then Zuckerberg has something more. And it's a foregoing competition until you're like, okay, I got too much money. I got all the power in the world. What else could I do to get some kind of feeling and emotion? Let's go to that private island with that Jeffrey Epstein guy. That sounds pretty interesting there. And then
the culmination.
that's essentially where they all go.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, I'm Bill Gates. I got all the
now I
money in
get
the
it.
world. It's like, what can I do to get some kind of feeling or kind of experience here? I already won the video game.
Yeah.
Let me see what kind of evil, ruthless, crazy stuff I can get away with.
Well, this is actually true. Most people don't know this, but after you make your first $1 million, they contact you, the cabal, and they say, here's the way the game works. Once you reach 100 million, you're invited to Epstein's Island. And then, of course, all the rich people are like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. I'm kidding.
I get concerned with giving money to future generations. I'm not like at the point where I'm like, no, seize the wealth, no more, make the money go to zero. I don't know, that seems so extreme. But the idea that you can hoard massive amounts of money, which is not what its purpose is, it's circulatory. It's supposed to be,
right.
That's the point of currency, is
Means
it's
of
producing
exchange.
a current.
But this is why people who are very wealthy don't really have relatively that much cash. You don't want
They
cash.
just got assets that they
Right.
transfer over upon death. And I don't know. I think it's causing a lot of greed and a lot of like aimlessness, because it's just the numbers of what's important, and that's not what money is really intended for. It's supposed to represent goods and services.
There's a certain point where when you're making a certain amount of money, you can't become less wealthy. So if you're a middle class individual, let's say you're making 75K, 80K a year in the United States, you get a paycheck, you got to buy stuff. You save some of it, but you're saving for something specific like a vacation or for a rainy day fund. Your money comes in, you spend it on food. Your money comes in, you repair your house. Your money comes in, or you buy a house. Your money comes in, you repair your car. Once you start making a certain amount of money, and I think the number is somewhere around I think it's after 80,000 a year, you start having money sit around, then you start buying things. All of a sudden you buy yourself, you'll buy a tablet. That tablet retains its value. So at a certain point, you're no longer consuming, you're actually acquiring things of value. For people who are very wealthy, again, just to use the example of Trevor Noah, because we've been talking about him, he gets $1 million in 1 month and says, I think I'll buy this building here. It costs $500,000. He doesn't lose the $500,000 ever. In fact, he makes more money from that. So it's like a curve. At a certain point, you make so much, you're rich forever.
But it's interesting you said 80,000 because I think that's also the point that scientists say that your happiness just levels out.
Well, that's why, because
Yeah,
it's when your basic necessities are covered.
Exactly.
In New York, it's like 160 to 200,000 for a middle class median because of how expensive everything is.
Exactly.
That's but it's all averages.
Is that adjusted to inflation now? Because that's probably
It
a lot
is.
more.
No. I
Really?
I adjusted
80,000 right now?
No. Nationally, it's probably like 90 to 100. But this means if you're on average, you could be living in the middle of Idaho.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be less. Actually, I think the middle of Idaho is actually expensive.
It is.
But if you're like, let's say 100 miles west of Chicago, things are getting relatively cheap. Nobody really wants to live out there. You're not far enough away, but you're not close enough. And then the property gets a bit cheaper. But for people who are in the upper echelon, this is why I always question, like, what are they doing? Are they just buying houses and then having them? But for what purpose do you have more houses? For what purpose do you like buy a house and rent it out? So you can make more money that you're not going to do anything with? Yo, I'm like, someone's got to throw a pie. Someone's got to like just hire 100 clowns and have them run around waving flags saying something like F Biden.
They want to give it to their kids.
Or just keep repeating the Bill Gates pieing saga that happened and just have people running around with Bill Gates masks and then other people pieing them and just having that on replay.
No, wait,
That's what I would do.
Hold on. You came up with a really great game show. So half the people are dressed up like Bill Gates and the other half are given pies. And the goal is X amount of Bill Gates contestants have to be pied and the other half have to, like the Bill Gates people not get pied, and then you see who wins at the end, right?
What if it's vaccinated instead of pied?
So 50 people are running around and then, so we get 100 people. 50 have big, novelty, oversized, spritzers that are shaped like syringes. And their goal is to chase after the people and...
They can't run around. They're going to get heart attacks. But that's a separate comment that I wanted to make here. But also, talking to a lot of people in the service industry, there is kind of this conversation that usually some of the most richest people in the world are some of the most stingiest tippers out there. So there is something to say about, people's ego, people's kind of desperation, people who have it all, but mentally are kind of bringing themselves down to a point of view where they, are, viewed as high status, but their their mentality is very low. Yeah,
I'm gonna buy some of this burnt hair.
I always told myself I would tip huge if I was rich. Like I'm gonna become super rich so that I'll just tip huge. And I realized, like, dude, I'm rich enough. I'm just tipping huge from here on out. I just give massive tips, like 100% tips or like 80% tips. Just load these servers up, man. Other people need the money too. You need to circulate that stuff.
Yeah,
That's
feels
true.
good.
Well, you can't just give money away, because when you give money to people, people don't respect it. People don't care about it. You can't just give out free fish all the time.
No, it's not free. They worked for it. They served me. They got down to their hands and knees and
They
groveled
served
doing
you.
a job they hated to make sure that I got good food fast.
Yeah.
They deserve it. And I think a big part of why there's not enough pushback against BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, is that people have their money invested in these mutual funds and they're just trying to ride it out so that their kids get it. And that's like a gross mishandling of currency, in my opinion.
America's huge on tipping, and like when you come from any other country in the world, it's like, oh my god, how much do I have to give so much?
20% minimum.
Right.
But wouldn't it be better if just the restaurant? And I don't know enough about. So you tell me why if the restaurants just paid their staff better.
Well, yeah. I mean, I lived in Singapore.
You make
where we
more
have
money on
GST,
tips.
You do make more money on tips, but it's weird because a lot of restaurateurs will just say you get this much money every hour, and it's like 10 cents, but you have to make all your money in tips essentially.
It makes sure that there's good service too. So I prefer to tip than just have something.
Not anymore. It used to be that they were like, they want to make sure they did well, so they got a good tip. But now, especially in cities, they're like, you better tip me, or I'll take a picture of you and post it on Instagram.
Sometimes, rarely, but in the service industry now you get a mixed batch. Definitely, service has been downgraded, especially with people being so entitled, generally speaking. But overall, I've gotten some good, people who really do care about providing a good service to people, who really do make sure that they do the right thing and make you happy. And I want to pay for that. I'd rather have that.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast. And there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and we'll see you all there.